Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. I was going to hit start about a minute ago, but Louis said something very controversial. So I'm very, very glad that I did not, in fact. Oh yeah, look, it's made Mr. Simpson wear the hat. That's exactly. That's
It was
exactly
Mr. Simpson. It was
Louis.
Mr. Simpson and his
No, no.
nitrogen bombs.
Oh, oh no. Well, that's
Demonetized.
that's that then. Well, hello everybody. We have brought back on Alan you from Canada shirt.
Hello.
And he has a fantastic channel which you must catch someday yourselves. But why have we brought him on? We've brought him on, dragged him along to talk about the new regulations in Canada because he is our expert. So Alan,
can I ask something? Where is Canada? Is that place, that black hole that only the locals can fly, right?
No, yeah, it's the northern part of America, I believe.
The part above Mexico.
Yeah.
I think you'll be very careful
on the northern wall. Yeah.
The northern wall, exactly. Yes. I understand it. Quite a few more. Anyway, that's another story. So, Alan, now we've rigged you enough. Are these regulations awful? One friend of mine said they're 65% better than they were before, but how are they for you?
I guess it's okay in the sense, it depends on how you're looking at it, because people have to keep in mind before we never even had any regulations, period. These were interim laws, like they just threw it at us. So if you're looking at it from the side of comparing it to the interim orders, it's more lenient in some ways. For example, before I could only fly 90 meters in the air. Now you can go up to 122. You can fly nighttime, assuming you have the right equipment. But you have to look at it from the other perspective too. Like for people that fly RC planes and so forth, you basically lost your rights in many ways, because before there was no regulations for people flying something really simple, but now you're going to have to register just like everyone else. And a lot of the regulations, they're not very thorough, in my opinion, because everything is commercialized. You could fly like a 251-gram drone, whatever you want to call it, in your backyard. You have to register it. You apparently have to keep records of it, of when you flew, all the maintenance. Otherwise, you can be fined. So it makes no sense in that sense. There's no separation between someone flying something for fun and someone doing it for business, which is the unfortunate thing.
I'm amazed. I didn't pick up that they wanted regulations. That's a hop and a stick regulations. Paperwork. That's a hop and skip away from a safety management system, really, and then keeping a track of all the parts from manufacturer through to destruction. That's a thin end of the wedge there. So how do you think it'll? How do you think it'll affect your flying? And do you think most of the Canadian population of drone population has twigged what's going on?
I would think for the majority of the people, I don't think they will necessarily be able to even do that. Like just for the fact that you have to keep track of every single record. I don't think the average person will do that, honestly. For a person like myself, it probably won't affect me that much in terms of flying, because like obviously I do it for a hobby, for fun. I do like every day anyways. But for an average person, like this tests and stuff that they put out there, it has almost nothing to do about drone flying or laws. Like just for me doing that test that you have to pass, I did the math. 40% of the questions are related to things like potentially drone laws. So think about that. 40% only. And you need 65% to pass. A lot of the questions aren't even related to a drone flyer. They're related to you flying actual airplanes. Like for someone like me, like why do I need to know like how an airplane wing functions and all that? Like it has absolutely no relevance to me. Nothing. So in order to pass this test, you need to understand things that you don't need to know. And I use the comparison of taking a car exam. You're gonna have to learn about trains if you want to pass the car exam.
So have you taken the exam and passed it?
Yes. Basically, I did it the first time, as some people know, just as a test. I did it as is, like how they intended, consumer buying a retail box. And I failed it by one question, literally. So this time when I redid it, I came with the mindset of, okay, I know these things aren't going to be about drones, and this time I got 80%. But just to show you, most people are probably going to fail when they try it the first time because it's a little misleading, in my opinion, to say this is like a drone test.
And how do you take it? Sorry, Louis. How do you take it? Is it online? Did you go somewhere?
Yes, you basically go online to the Transport Canada site, and you're basically taking the small basic exam. There's also an advanced one. If you take that, then you're allowed to fly things like in the controlled airspace and all that. Whereas basic, you have to be in an uncontrolled zone.
So, quick question. So, how are they going to control when you order something from Hobby King or GearBest that has more than 250 grams? Is the person's responsibility to register that drone? Because from what I've heard, you have to register every drone, right?
Yes. So what you do is, if the drone's over 250 grams, you first have to take the test. So you have to pass the test first, which is separate. It's about $10. And then every single drone that you own, you have to pay $5 for each one. So if you're like someone that has maybe, let's just say 10 drones, that's going to cost you $50. So I don't think they really thought it through.
What is a drone in their perspective?
Yes,
a foam plane? A foam plane is a drone?
According to them, it's just literally anything that's over 250 grams that's remotely controlled. That does not require, for example, a live human on board to actually control it.
That is that's always part of the
I'm bankrupt. I'm bankrupt. I would be bankrupt in Canada. I'm going to be bankrupt in Canada.
Mm-hmm. And then
does it have to fly to qualify for a drone?
According to them,
because RC cars are over 250 grams.
No, it'll have to be. I bet you, without doing it, I bet you it'll have to be controllable in 3-axis from the surface with no pilot on board and able to sustain flight. So the sustained flight thing means
a buggy then jumping.
Oh, come on, Gary! You've never seen my buggy flying over the poles.
But it can't sustain flight, and you can't.
Yes, it can. Yes, it can.
Depends on how high a building you throw it over.
The clue is in the acronym remotely piloted aircraft system, which is what they use sometimes in that document. They refer to remotely piloted aircraft systems. So that basically nails it down to anything that's remotely piloted and capable of sustained flight. So yeah, and the thing, I think when Alan says these wing things are not relevant, they're not relevant to him, but because these regulations apply to everything that flies, if you're flying RC model aircraft, then theory of flight does come into it to a degree. So what they've done is they've created this blunt instrument, which is supposed to cover such a wide base that only a small percentage of the information is relevant to any sector of that base. So Alan flies multi-rotor drones. He doesn't need to know about wings and aerofoils and stuff like that. But someone else who flies a little foam electric model, they do need to know that. But it's like all regulators, they're too stupid to realize that drones are not RC model aircraft in the traditional sense, and too stupid to make categorize within those groups. So they've just said, well, we'll cover everything and everyone has to know everything about everything, which is really stupid.
Yes.
Come on, Bruce, they're not stupid. They just have a different intelligence than yours or mine. So
but you can't measure that measured in negative numbers, Louis.
Come on, it's if you take the module of that, it gives you absolute values, so it's okay. Now it's quite strange because it's a tendency that we have been seeing all over the world, not only in Canada but also in Europe. And in Europe, be ready, Alan, because if they implement the SORA methodology for commercial operators, then you'll see what funny registering can be.
Oh, what fun.
And I can see what Canada's done. They've tried to be clever like New Zealand and not draw this really difficult distinction between commercial and non-commercial, because you have this whole thing, I do a flight today for my friend and he doesn't pay me any money. It's non-commercial, it's legal. In a year's time, he wants to use the footage, he pays me $1, and suddenly that retrospectively becomes an illegal flight. Those things, those paradoxes can't be allowed. So regulators like New Zealand and obviously Canada are saying it's not whether it's commercial or not, it's the class of operation in terms of the risk involved. So they've said, well, we've got basic standard operations, these cover this, and if you want to do stuff that's more likely to be commercial, we'll call it advanced and we'll charge you extra. But you can still do commercial stuff on the basic. They don't draw a distinction as to whether you get paid or not. That's quite a clever thing to do, but it does trip you up in so many other ways. They're just being a little bit too clever, I think.
I'm quite surprised that they didn't go to the Canadian Model Aircraft Association, whatever they're called, and say, hey, come up with some questions for this exam. That seems a little bit silly to have a...
But they did go to the MAA. Traditionally, the MAAC, or MAC as it's called in Canada, has an exemption from some of the regulations. This has gone on in the interim regulations and everything. So they have some exemptions because of their status as being a body with a history of safety and so forth. So I think what's happened is the Canadian government probably thinks all people who fly radio-controlled models are members of MAC. So we can effectively deal with the models by giving MAC an exemption. But what they don't realise is the world has changed in the last 10 years, and the vast majority of people who fly model aircraft are not members of the national body. So all the people who fly in parks and fly elsewhere and don't belong to MAC, they are completely disadvantaged because they have no exemptions. They have, if they take their little AXN out with electric thing and they break a propeller, they've got to make a note in their maintenance log and keep those records for 24 months that they've changed the propeller. And every time they fly, they've got a note that they flew, where it was, when it was, who was with them, all this sort of stuff, which is completely ridiculous because the Canadian regulators are so lazy. They've sat down and they've got the commercial manned aircraft operations book and they've just gone copy paste into the RPAS book and said, right, that'll fix them. And so we've got Canadians have got all these restrictions and requirements which are ludicrous in perspective of hobby flyers, but they think they've fixed it by saying all MAC members have an exemption. But MAC members are only a percentage of model flyers, and so they're creating a nightmare for themselves. Mr. Garneau's desk is going to be littered with emails and letters from people who are saying, I crashed my plane on the weekend. I've been required to notify you as the minister that I've done this. And it's like, they don't realize what they're going to put themselves up for. I think that will change before the regulations come into effect. I think you'll see a back down on that record keeping for non-commercial users.
Why should they? Come on, there's almost no one in Canada, so it's a bunch of people on the coast and the other bunch of people on the other coast. So the letters take lots of time, and the records take lots of time to get from one place to the other. The craziest thing from all those regulations, and I'm going to start lobbying the European regulators, is that we want to be reciprocal to the country of origin when tourists come here to Portugal or Spain or wherever in Europe. Because if I cannot fly legally in Canada, why should a Canadian fly if he abides by my rules? It's strange things that going on, because it's not the first country that goes with these crazy regulations of only nationals can fly legally in the country.
But the devil's in the detail, Louis. There is a provision in there for people with accreditations in other countries to be granted an SFOC, Special Flight Operations Certificate, for if they need to fly in Canada. But you've got to make application for that in advance and everything. It's a whole process you've got to go through. You get a certificate that says, even though you're an evil non-Canadian, we'll let you fly in our airspace for a certain amount of time, providing ... And you've got to fill out all the details. So there is some reciprocation there. But on the other hand, they've basically said, if you're under 14, forget about flying model aircraft unless your parents are also keen enough to actually sit the exam and get their drone license and supervise you. I mean, what?
Come on, Gary, Bruce, you don't, even if you're 14, you cannot legally drive a car or a motorcycle.
Oh,
and you can't play with a toy plane either.
That's a lame analogy, Louis. That's a lame
analogy.
It's not. Louis, that brings up one of the other things in this regulations. You know, bottle to throttle for full-size aircraft in Canada is 8 hours. For a toy plane, it's 12 hours.
Quite right. Quite right. Well, poor old Alan, we're rattling on, and it's his rules and he owns them. It's his rules and regulations. It's his fault. So it's his videos that did it. So what was the most preposterous questions that you had, Alan?
The most preposterous one. Like well, that's one of the things, because as part of doing this test, they say you're not allowed to specifically like share the questions and so forth. So I'm wondering, how can I tell people about this? Because I can't even educate people actually about what the questions are specifically. So how can I like talk to you guys about the questions that were asked to me as well, like specifically because of the
surely-
regulation.
Can you refer us to the guide that they've published, which tells you all the information? You know, the study guide that they've published, obviously for free.
Oh, that study guide. You mean the one where they say they recommend you to go to drone school? There literally is no study guide to take this test. You'd have to either read the basic laws, which, like I said, only 40% of the questions relate to it, or you have to read like those huge aeronautic acts, like the guys, like the 400-page, and try to guess like where the questions are, like that you'll need the answers for. Currently, there's no way to actually be super prepared unless you go to the quote drone school, or like you guys, if you guys fly more, I guess like RC planes, you would have more knowledge of stuff like that than a person like me that buys like a consumer retail drone.
But surely it won't be long before someone will take the test, him or her and their friends take the test multiple times and just write down all the questions and create a question bank. Surely that's already happened. Or is that too naughty?
But it says you're not allowed to do that, Gary. You're not allowed to publish the questions, not allowed to share the questions. That's illegal. You'll get fined and put in a Canadian jail, eh?
It's probably quite nice.
I cannot fly there, so it's okay.
There we are. Yes, it doesn't matter. We kind of without special. Yeah, it's all a nonsense, isn't it? But you wonder why now in 2019, regulators, they've seen mistakes. Remember, it's nearly 20 years, kids, since Australia got their regulations. People have been playing this game for 20 years. So why are they still landing with ridiculous setups? How can that be?
Every regulator wants to show that they're better at making stupid regulations than another country. You know, they're trying to up the game. Oh, those are stupid regulations, but we can be stupider.
Yes.
Well, here's a funny example just about like things like drone education and all. Like some people might have seen before, when I flew the drone, I usually educate the public about it. Like if someone's scared about it, I'll be like, here, do you want to fly it, for example? That's actually technically illegal for me to do now, because there's actually a statement here on the rules. It says handovers. It says no pilot shall hand over their responsibilities to another pilot during flight unless before the takeoff or launch of a remotely piloted aircraft. So technically, like let's say you're flying like a 251-gram drone in the field for fun, like a racing drone. You can't let the guy like say, "Hey, guy, you just want to fly for fun?" Oh, sure, that's illegal for you to do that. Like this is meant more for. I understand if you're flying like a big airplane, like you just don't want to give anybody like, "Okay, I'm gonna take over the wheel," but not for like how modern day people like use stuff like this nowadays.
I think you should
go to the buddy box.
The lobby of radio manufacturers, they just want to sell the student teacher radio system with two radios, so you fly with two radios.
I think you should be mandated to fly behind a steel door that you can't break down with an axe and all that sort of a thing. I think that's what's needed there, really. It's what's if your drone weighs 600 grams, 5-mile wind outside, how much more fun would you be having than doing this poxy test? Well, yes. yes.
On the positive side, Gary, I'm surprised. Canada has basically said, well, if it's under 250 grams, go for it. Just don't kill anybody or break anything. So beyond visual line of sight, totally legal. Above 400 feet, 10,000 feet, totally legal.
You put a video up to that, and I've got this here within mind as well. This weighs nothing.
It shows how out of touch the regulators are with the problem. They just don't understand, because Mr. Garneau, spokesman, said a 300-gram drone can damage the cockpit of an aircraft. So one would assume that a 299-gram drone will simply bounce off harmlessly and cause no problems at all. So 250, ultimately perfectly safe. Again, I think there are some aspects of this regulation that are going to change before the final implementation date. That's probably one of them.
So, Alan, a quick question. Have any of the big manufacturers, like the tree leather manufacturers from Shenzhen, said anything? Because this week we were surprised with they took a stance regarding the drone sightings, but have they issued any kind of comment regarding the Canadian drone rules?
For the most part, just in the media and stuff, they're saying for a lot of people, they actually embrace it, like with the regulations. But it seems to me, in terms of, regular people, I think most regular people, they're not really in tune, like with the regulations, honestly. Because I know like another issue, I guess, with bigger companies, manufacturers, I don't know if you guys know, but apparently if you fly a drone for advanced operations, which is things like closer, like within 30 meters of a bystander, you now have to actually fly a drone that's approved by the government, like I guess Transport Canada. So you can't actually fly, like, say, a DJI drone because there is no DJI drone on the actual list. And I was even looking at it before. You have to fly like these humongous $30,000 drones to do some basic stuff like people like myself can do just to capture video. So that's one of the things right now. Yeah.
That's great for business development. So the manufacturers are ecstatic.
Yeah, that's money talking. That's money talking. When you get on that list, you probably have to pay a huge amount of money. I noticed there's some Canadian companies on that list. And how on earth can a government that can't even get its rules right decide whether a particular drone is suitable for advanced operations or not? They don't even know which way up they go or what the propellers do. I mean, so they're going to make decisions for people who know a lot better. This is like crazy stuff.
Mr. Coogan, I think I'm getting that right in the comments, are saying a 250-gram drone can damage the teeth of a chihuahua. Now, I'm not sure what that comment's about, really. I just thought I'd single it out because I don't know about you, but I certainly don't fly anywhere that's infested with chihuahuas.
Don't you? You're missing out, Gary. You try some dogged determination.
It's dogged determination. Every single time. Very good. He did half a mile with a 25-gram drone the other night. Yes, there's of course in Australia and FPV Steve says the sub 250-gram market I think become huge, and then legislation will change again. I think you'd be quite possibly right there. Australia, it's 100 grams is the regulation, and New Zealand it's 0 grams, isn't it, Bruce? Or 0.00001.
That's right. There used to be 100-gram cutoff here, but the CAA were worried that the capability of these devices is growing exponentially, and that if they put a limit in, they'd have to reduce it again. So, but they are looking at reintroducing it to align themselves with other countries such as the USA and UK and so forth. So we'll see what happens.
And I think we've got, again, we really need to put it on the wall behind me. I think we've got the Danish to blame for the 250 grams. I think that came out of a Danish study a few years ago. I can't quite remember.
The critical mass of pastry.
Yeah, but that would be great because it's flaky, so it's pretty frangible. So on an impact, it would just break apart. So that would be.
But the pilot could choke on it.
It's very true. It's very, very, very true. Yes, I mustn't joke about things like that. Sean is here. What kinds of speeds are we talking about? Wouldn't that impact the physics involved quite a bit? Yes, I wonder if there is a speed limit in
they
Canada.
did qualify it at cruising speed or something, but they didn't say whether it was the cruising speed of the 300-gram drone or the cruising speed of the aircraft it was hitting. So,
and I noticed a welcome return of that phantom video hitting wing leading edges this week on social media everywhere. That has made its way back round as being fact and justification for all of these things. It's funny how that happens, isn't it? It's very, very funny. So we can't tempt any questions out of you, Alan. That's no good if you're not going to give them away. So we're going to have to get online and do...
Gary, I did hear from a source that some of the questions are like, how do you measure the circumference of the Earth? Now, did you know? Alan probably didn't know this, but probably not one of the questions he got. But how do you measure the circumference of the Earth? Which is kind of a crazy question for someone who's going to be flying in a park.
With a piece of string.
Yes.
Oh, I think so.
Tethered drones. I
don't know. Well, I mean, what is the answer to that? And which way are you measuring it? I wonder. Because
I think it's basically a multiple choice question, and what they're looking at is, and how do you determine your position on the circumference of the Earth? And it's obviously by latitude or longitude, depending on which way you're looking at it. So, but I mean, that's pretty. Someone who is not familiar with navigational terms and that sort of thing, it's not relevant to someone who's flying a small drone in a park in a suburban area. It's just, there's no point in asking people questions that don't contribute to safety. And that's why I think this whole exam thing, they've just grabbed stuff out of the flight manual, plonked it onto a computer and said, let them answer these questions. They need to know about this. And they don't. And same with weather and so forth, because I think I heard from someone the other day that the weather aspect of the 107 exam in the USA has been eliminated or greatly scaled down because they realize people flying drones are using apps that tell them the weather, and they're not flying for any more than 20 minutes at a time. So you're unlikely to get major weather changes within that period of time, which is different, of course, to man navigation, where you may be flying for 2 or 3 hours. You need to know what the weather systems mean. In the case of local flying for 15 minutes, it doesn't matter. You can see with your eyes what the weather's going to do.
But if you've got weather knowledge and you've got a good idea, you also would have a bit better better idea of yes, I often see people and they put flipping images of their weather app up on Facebook saying, "Is it too windy to fly my Phantom 4?" And I'm just thinking, well, what? Just you know, A, you don't know if the app's accurate anyway, and B is just look out the window and use common sense. I mean,
you're so old school, Gary.
Well, maybe I am a curmudgeonly old
Come
man. So
on,
I'm a training
Gary.
from yourself there, Bruce.
No. You're see, you need to take that examination again, because if you're flying on windy days and your DJI does not want to fly, it will say it's too windy and tells you to land. Come on,
It actually does.
Better than that.
No, but that's but very often that's when it really is too windy, and you're there to do a commercial job. You shouldn't be trying. So you've fooled yourself. If you'd looked at the forecast, you could. I mean, yes, I hear what you're saying about. I'm not going to win this argument, am I? But I'm going to try. If you'd looked at the forecast, had an idea of weather systems in your head, and you've been thinking about the job for a couple of days, you might not have gone out. Your small company is going to lose money if you drive out there and then turn around because of the weather. You could save yourself some money. You shouldn't be.
But let's ask Alan a question. Would knowing the name of cloud types saved you from having to land in, was it a basketball court or a tennis court when the wind got your Mavic?
Yeah, of course it does. I guess my example, like, because the questions are randomized too, because I've seen some people say, "Oh, it's so easy, common sense," but they're not related. My analogy right now would be, imagine you're doing a test to be a swimmer, and they're trying to make sure you're safe. So if I was to ask you a question out of random, just saying, at what temperature does water start to freeze? Would most of you know that? Basically, like the answer for that.
Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Celsius.
Kelvin, please.
Okay, so imagine like half the people get that, but then there's another water question that goes, at what temperature does water start to boil? I bet you most people would be like, what? Like they wouldn't know that one. So that's an example of this one. Like I would say first, why does a guy learning how to swim necessarily need to know that? And that's an example of you might know something based on common sense, but the other end, like I highly doubt people will know that off by heart. But to me, that's just how ridiculous some of the questions are.
Well,
I was surprised to see them asking the capital of Peru, actually. For those who don't know.
Yeah. Peru's most famous export, of course, Paddington Bear. But they're expecting. So let's get my head around this. So in Canada, before you go and buy your DJI whatever now to fly for fun, you are supposed to have taken the exam. So do you have to go to the shop with the proof of your exam before, a bit like buying a gun, before they'll let you buy your drone?
No, at this point, you can basically buy it for the store. It's your personal responsibility to go to the site and do all the tests. So if you're not aware of these regulations, like the retailer doesn't actually tell you, then most people won't actually know, honestly, with the way things are right now.
But then if you get caught by L law, you're going to be in trouble, and ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Theoretically, yes. So from what they said, if someone's flying your drone without taking the test, not having like the registered marker, then technically they could fine you, from what they say anyways. So it's all about the enforcement. Yeah.
And you want to piss off those Mounties, eh?
So what's the fine? What's the fine? The minimum fine?
From what I saw, a lot of the fines were like $1,000, $500.
So it's already Christmas for the police. They
Pretty
just
much, I guess.
sit down outside one of those big box moving shops, and everyone that comes out with a drone, they say license and registration. Fine.
Yes.
And show us your logs, eh?
Show us your logs. Plenty of logs in Canada. Oh yes, and Bruce. It's good of Bruce to wear the shirt actually in honor of the lumberjack there this evening. In the comments, people are mentioning a little bit. Yeah, there you go. They're mentioning the slight changes in America. That there are tests. There hasn't been so there's no physical flying test for this, Alan. Yeah, it's just
there is if you take the advanced test. That one apparently you'll have to go to a school and they'll test you with actual flying. So with the advanced, you can now fly in a controlled airspace, and you will be able to, for example, fly within 30 meters of a person. But it comes down to, again, just because you take that test, you can't do that because you have to fly a drone that's approved by the government.
Yes. And as you say, no DJI drones are on that list.
At the moment, no. Yes.
At the moment, just very expensive things. But DJI welcomed the this thing. I've just posted in the link. But it also ascertained it. Sorry, the link I've posted is to the changes in America, where they are going to get a they're going to drop the waiver thing to fly at night and over people, as long as you've done a flight test. And that's coming, even though they're closed down there. Quite why you'd want to fly at night over people, I don't really want to know.
So if a drone is fully automated, why do they need to know if you can fly it manually?
Because that's not properly on any regulator's radar yet.
So should the autopilot that is flying the drone also pass the test?
Yes, it should. And it should shine its shoes, and it should perhaps bring chocolates or something like that for the examiner. I don't know. They'll probably know. The computers, they'll know each other.
No, but the question is valid. So if you have a fully computer-controlled drone that flies by himself, should the computer pass the test of be able to fly? How come?
That's actually interesting, actually. Bring like a Skydio drone in there or something for the test.
Well, bring a Skydio. Okay. Does it pass the test?
Well, yeah, that would surely be, well, that would be part of your approval process. And I guess moving forward, that's going to be how the BV loss sort of things start happening, because the man in the loop in BV loss situations is kind of the weak link.
Come on, Gary, the worst example you could get, because the Skydio needs you to be in frame, so you're never in BV loss.
No, yeah, come on. Come on, it doesn't take much imagination to realize the Skydio guys can say, that's the building I want you to look at every week on a Thursday at 4 o'clock. Please go off and do that. And it would very, very easily do it.
At the moment.
It's a cracking bit of kit, and it would easily be able to do that. But what regulators are, yes, because also regulators aren't prepared. Well, you say the one drone needs to go and take the test, but what about the swarm? Do they all have to go together? They can all ride share in the same car when they arrive at the flying site?
I saw something about one person may only control one RPAS at a time.
Yeah, exactly. That's the rule in most countries, and the way that Intel and others are getting around it is through waivers and special cutouts for that sort of thing. But yeah, that is pretty much everywhere. That is the rule.
That's a compound RPAS. It's a compound RPAS. Like that plane that has all the different planes glued together, and it flies around the wibbly wobbly. It's crazy category.
It's a multi-part RPAS. So you just tell one to do, and the other parts follow along. It's like an helicopter before crashing.
Yes. I'm going to ask that. Either Nicola is doing something very delicate on his desk there, or he's falling asleep. What are you making on the desk there, Nicola? So wake you up there.
Replacing battery on this thing.
Oh,
some of you may have already forgotten this. It's a Cheerson CX10A. Because this has been sitting around for a while, and it's a present for a kid. So I'm replacing the battery with actually work. And now it's more than a minute. And also, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, just about.
And I've got a Ranger 2000 here, and I will be equipping it with a brand new HD video system from R2 Tech, which arrived recently. So it's going to be a 2-in-1 thing, a brand new plane with a brand new HD system. So curious how that's going to go, and if that system actually performs well within the that I'm not going to put an autopilot on it quite yet. I am going to put an autopilot on it and send it off see if it will be the 2 kilometers that the previous model was able to go out to.
And
In,
oh, you are breaking up badly there, mate. I'm just saying. So if I see that you can post links, you're very welcome to, guys. I'll just have to see them and approve them. So it's no dramas. Look, I'm going to do. Look, see what I've got here. Look, I'm going to do an unboxing. We never do that. Or I'm slipping it. Hang on. It's already very boring. It's already, has the paint dried yet? Because look, I see what he's got there. Now, what have you got there, Mr. Simpson?
Yeah, that's a cheap move.
What have you made there, Mr. Simpson? What sort of frequency is that?
That's an R9 Mini, the Fresco long-range receiver. The interesting thing is, it's actually, if you want to build a really, really small light aircraft, these are smaller than the 2.4 gig receivers, and they've got lots more range. So this is part of my 50 long range.
What I'm going to be putting in the Ranger, it's an R9 Slim Plus with the and
it doesn't have enough range to get to the computer.
It doesn't have the range to get to the computer. You're very broken. Why do they call these antennas Immortal T's and not dipoles? Why did the crazy
more importantly, why are they putting a balanced antenna on an unbalanced feed line? That's ridiculous.
Oh, yes. There's many questions to ask of this, isn't there, really? Yeah. Oh, well, we'll see how they go.
Well,
this is
supposedly they should work better, and I'm guessing it might have something to do with the fact that it might be more durable than the standard one. Maybe not get chopped off immediately after a crash, unlike these antennas.
Yeah.
They're like careful. But I don't know. Work to upload the right firmware. But seriously, this thing has like S-Bus in, S-Bus RSSI, XRM, Smart Port 6, EVM outputs.
Oh, mate, you're breaking up too much, Nicola. You're breaking up too much. It's one in 5 words. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do it. The voting is in.
Sorry about
that. We're not getting it. We're not getting it, mate. But I said, Squishy says it's because TBS invented the antenna and named it. What, invented the dipole? Oh no, that's right. That was a controversy, wasn't it?
It was the Welshman, wasn't it? Dipole.
Oh, God. Oh dear. But yeah, I'll be interested to see. This is for the flight aware stuff for 868, not for RC control. But I think I am going to have, because I think now the game now is to play 200 sub 250 grams, isn't it? So I am going to need a lightweight receiver of some sort. So I might be trying one of those R9s myself. Which you'll see.
I'm going to make a folded dipole with a coaxial balun and see if it makes any difference to the receiver.
Yeah, well, you would. I mean, this sort of frequency, one could be trying Slim Jims and all sorts of things, J-poles, and so it'll all be pretty small. But you guys could, but I couldn't because my engineering skills are like terrible. so you'd have to be super precise at 868 or starting to get super precise to make a big difference. What's we saying? Sit for a training session. Oh, Part 107 in America. Well, that's another question to the Part 107 in America with the FAA. That part of it shut down. Is anybody getting their renewals done? And then, are they still flying commercially? And that's all a bit of a grey area at the moment. Any thoughts on that? No thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because if you've set that exam and you've got that qualification, renewal is a fiscal process. So would not paying the money make you unsafe in the air? I don't think it would. It's like if you've proven your capabilities, the lack of paying the money or lack of ability to pay the money because they won't take it shouldn't stop you from conducting your commercial operations. Otherwise, why would you run a business in the US?
Well, no, you've got to resit the exam. It's not just fiscal, so you can't do either of those things.
Yeah, but if it's just a matter of days, would you forget everything in a day from the day when your certificate ran out to the time you renew it?
But of course you do. That's exactly why we have to do these renewals. Actually, there's another question for Alan. And how long does your license last, Alan?
I believe this one here it says about, because you have to actually retake this every 2 years, I believe, like for this one here in Canada.
Okay, and is it called a license or an operator certificate, or what's it actually called?
Let's see here. I can pull this up. I was actually going to make a video for this. It's called the pilot certificate, and it's just a certificate number. It's the small remotely piloted aircraft system, RPAS, visual line of sight. That's all they call it. And you basically have a certificate number, and basically they list registrations and stuff like that.
And that qualifies you to fly all types, so fixed wing, rotary, multi-rotor.
Yes, technically yes, as long as you follow the guidelines, for example, like not over the 122 meters, etc., etc.
Okay, and then
one thing governments are really good at, that they take your rights off you and then sell them back to you.
Wow. Oh, look, now we've got some live flying. I did an unboxing. Now we've got some live flying happening during the cast. That is actually my recommendation for anyone that's got a child wanting a small RPAS that will be sub 250 grams. Those things are exactly my recommendation. I love those things. They're really, really, really well. And if they love that, then they'll definitely go for something bigger like a Tello or whatever.
Actually, I've got an FPV version of this thing that's like with a Wi-Fi, and you can see it on the phone. I just can't seem to locate it around here, but it's like the Cheerson CX-F0 or 0F or OF or something like that, and it's got a camera on it, and it's that big. I think it might be slightly bigger and it's slightly taller, but it's in that size, and it's pretty outstanding. And I think it even has an optical positioning sensor.
Wow, that's amazing.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so basically you just leave it somewhere in the room and it would stay there if you don't touch it.
No, they're amazing. We fly anydrone.com. There's one in for you. It says the Tello is brilliant. And I agree, the Tello is brilliant. But if you have a 10-year-old that you don't know whether they're going to really enjoy this or not, the Tello is a little bit too steep for a first investment, in my humble opinion. They fly that anyway. I'm out of touch with what's happening in the comments. I'm just out of touch. What else were we going to talk about? I've forgotten. Oh, in the UK, AJS and the market trends from 2013 to 2019. And I thought that was quite interesting in that. And Alan from AJS is too nervous to come on it. They're very, very nice people in the West Country, same tribe as me. But they've noticed that the number of if you total up the number of commercial operators in the UK, yes, that number's gone up. But the ones that have renewed and have kept going is moving away from the total number quite dramatically. So it's already beginning to plateau in the UK after about 6 years of operation. And I think that's pretty much happening everywhere around the world. And big changes are afoot. Companies are bringing commercial flight in-house. They've seen that things work. So instead of buying in services from a Part 107 or a UK PFCO, they just have people in-house looking after the data and doing it themselves. And I think the market's settling down, but that's not what I'm supposed to say. I'm supposed to say it's expanding exponentially. Bruce, you're very business-minded. What are your thoughts on what's happening with
PwC reckon that the drone market's going to be worth in so many years' time. Every time they publish a report, she's all on the up and up. It's all great. Yes, come to us. Yeah, but you're right. I saw an article in the news. Some kid earned $7,000 flying commercially his drone, his Phantom 4 or something last year, somewhere in the world, America or something. I'm thinking, okay. But yeah, it is. It's like the gold rush that never happened. It has been hyped out of all reality, and now the reality's starting to set in, and people that have gone out there and got their commercial certifications are realizing, well, there's no money in this. There's too many people and not enough work. And they're going back to, I don't know, doing driveways or recladding houses or whatever they did before. And we'll see things will level out and it'll all get, you know.
But that's a perfect example of where you could use it, isn't it? Because you could, as part of your driveway or cladding business, you could use it to take the images to sell that service that you had. But if you don't have the skills to do the cladding or the driveway or the facilities, then all you're doing is selling a picture. And yeah, it's something that lends itself to be another tool in a toolbox, another hammer in the toolbox of a tradesman.
We don't hire people to bang nails in when we're building a house. We hire, you know, we do it ourselves, or we, you know, it's not such a specialist high tech thing now that you need to have a specialist doing it. Anyone can do it. They're just a tool, and as you say, just buy your own hammer. It's as simple as that. And
then again, we can fly anydrone.com. You can do that without a PIFCO in the UK or PFC. I don't know. That's yeah, I wasn't aware of that. Well, if that's the case, then and I don't know if you can, maybe you can answer if you can do that in a built-up area as well without one. Then yeah, it's no wonder then that market is shrinking in the UK. If tradesmen can do that.
In the USA, you'll still need a 107, even if you're doing it for yourself. If it's in the furtherance of a business, it still requires a 107. So even if you're not actually charging for it, if it is in the furtherance of a business, it's still classified commercial.
And John Gustafsson, maybe Alan will know where the list is, but I saw the list. I can't remember where the manufacturer's list is for Canada, but it is somewhere. If you Google Licious Love, you'll find it. Any ideas, Alan?
You want like the actual drones, like the list?
Yeah, or where did you see it? Just so we can.
Oh, it's right in the drone safety site in Transfer Canada. So you can see things like Arion Labs, Delair SAS, Dragonfly Inc. Like these are all like
the past. Well, it's Dragon, isn't it, or something?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that is the old days stuff, isn't it? I know the Falcon 8 from Intel's on there as well. But yeah, whoever managed to get on that list did well, didn't they? Really, for the minute. They did very well. So that it's not much. I thought the commercial. So has it in fact got a little bit easier to fly commercially in Canada then?
Well, technically yes, because I was even thinking of like before, like the people that benefit immensely with these regulation changes are the commercial people, because normally to do any kind of commercial operation, they normally had to go through that SFOC process, which could take forever. Who knows? Whereas now, if you want to technically do something like, say, for a real estate agent, they say, hey, I want you to capture video of my house. You can actually just do that now. So like even like a person like me could do that if I really wanted to. So the only time you need those SFOCs, they say, is if you want to do really complex operations, like flying over a large crowd during a big event, which is actually kind of silly too with the law, because one of them says you can't fly your drones in an advertised event. Like that's the wording. Like what the heck is an advertised event? So if there's a advertised drone event, you're saying I can't bring my drone and fly it there?
Yeah. Well, yes, as I said right at the top, it's amazing, isn't it? We've been having drone regulations for 20 years. How on earth can we still be getting them so very, very wrong? And we know that all these regulators fly around the world to meetings at each other's house all the time with cakes and everything, because we see reports of it. So yeah, you wonder how they don't get it all together. I suppose it will all settle down in the end. Look, time is cracking on here. What else has caught anyone's eye this week?
Well, the incident at our airfield.
Incident at your airfield? What did you do? What did you do?
The Tokoroa War. The Tokoroa War.
The Great Tokoroa War. Okay. What did you do?
As usual, we were flying our model aircraft and drones in the area sanctioned by the local council, civil aviation, and the national model flying body. And we heard a helicopter call saying he was going to.
And by you,
Louis? And by me, yes, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And we heard a helicopter call up on the radio saying he was going to be landing at his base, which is about 2 kilometers from the airfield. So we thought nothing more of it. And then next thing we know, this helicopter comes straight across the runway, not down the runway, across the runway at about a third of the way down, across the people who were flying and across the hangars at an altitude or height of no more than 200 feet, which is kind of illegal. You're not supposed to transit through a circuit at that altitude. and you're not supposed to fly over gatherings of people, and you're not supposed to fly below 500 feet unless you are engaged in an agricultural operation or taking off a landing. I think at 2 kilometers away from the helipad, he didn't have to be at 200 feet. So
he was on a long approach.
Come on,
he was on a very long approach.
He was doing the approach.
Yeah.
With a helicopter, yeah,
Yeah,
because those things can't hover. So we, if we had been flying, then there was a potential for a nasty accident. And I'm sure that if the pilot of the helicopter found a drone between his legs, he would not have said, "Oh, my bad, sorry guys." He would have made a huge stink in a complaint. Fortunately, I got it on video, and it has been referred to the relevant authorities. But I have a feeling that not much is going to come of it because it's manned aviation, and they can't be in the wrong. And interesting also that 2 of the recent fatality reports issued by CAA cited flying below 500 feet illegally as a contributing factor to the accident. So I've contacted CAA and said, look, you've got to get your GA pilots, your manned aviators, to follow the rules before you start bitching about drone pilots flying in the wrong places. Because in all the drone incidents, there's not been one fatality, but it seems that far too often when manned aviation break the rules, people die. So focus on the big problems, please.
Well, now that people like Alan and people in the UK are taking exams and having to jump through hoops, is it time? Will the playing fields get leveled slightly, and will the large drone and model aircraft flying user base, much larger than the manned aviation community now, will we unionize? Should we unionize? Start a union, Bruce.
That's the other problem, though. We don't have the representation. But when you look at it, look.
What did you
was
do?
it the helicopter?
Hey?
Was it the helicopter that flew too low for you and took the wire?
Yeah.
Did
I miss something?
Yeah, you just kind of disappeared.
We all briefly went because you were getting your high horse. So now you've got off the high horse.
It's the damn security services in this country. They can't even tap a line without interrupting the service. It's terrible.
Absolutely. So I think I can't even remember what you're saying before that rude interruption.
I was just saying that if it comes to a battle between manned aviation and drone flyers pay $10 for a license. Commercial pilots and PPL pay a fortune. So naturally, the regulator is going to side with the party that provides the most money.
So as long as I've got a lot of money, I'll be a lot safer as a pilot then. So that's all right. That's
absolutely.
Yeah, safety.
Well, look at the what was it? What was it talking about recently? The Coventry City Council, they plan to ban drones in the city, but if you paid £50, you were able to fly. I see they're back down on that now. They're finally back down. There was too much objection, so they've changed their mind.
Yes, well, they moved the meeting aside, didn't they? They've postponed it for a later date. But yeah, well, if you think about it though, if you are a local council and you want to try and avoid, I don't know, some Gatwick sort of feedback or whatever, because when you looked at Gatwick and you looked to the south of the runway, you could see all the playing fields there, the sports centres and everything there. The police are saying, where are they flying these from? Well, I reckon I'd go down to that sports field down there. That would suit me. So if you're the council and you say, oh, no, we don't allow it, when the police come knocking or the authority comes knocking, you say, well, we don't allow it, so it would have been illegal. So it must have been from some farmer's field. Surely it's a gut reaction. It's going to be a gut reaction, isn't it, from councils all around the world? Try and clamp that down.
Yeah, well, most of them are pretty good. But when you think about it, this again points to the whole regulators have no clue of what the problem is, because look at the UK, their regulations were 1 kilometre from an international airport. I mean, seriously, who came up with that rule? I mean, and then they wondered why they had problems with drones appearing on the flight paths. These people have got no clue as to what the problem is, so they have no clue how to fix it. So it's all knee-jerk reactions to imaginary threats, and we're never going to get a decent, fair, balanced regulatory system with compliance if they keep doing this.
I'm not sure if it's regulators or governments, because we had a new law coming out mid last year, and just to start the new year, and the new law is still not in full effect, and just to start the new year, the government issued a new drone law, which nobody knows what it's going to say. So I don't think that the regulators by themselves issue new laws. They are given laws, the governments are giving them laws to to be used. So I think we have to establish the difference between regulators and governments. Governments are the guys that are running for the 15 seconds of fame, crying that they're fighting the drone problem, and the regulators just have to comply with whoever is in charge at the moment.
Yeah, but I don't think in the UK the government said, yeah, let people fly their drones right up to 1K from an airport. The regulator would have made that first decision and said, well, a kilometre is that far, that's far enough. So at that stage, the regulator had no clue what they were doing.
Come on, Bruce, you know better. But perhaps the regulator knows, and is and knows that why should he spend his credits on with the government, calling the government stupid?
No, I do think we've seen a change this last year where government's been getting in the way of regulators. I do think there are regulators with sensible thinking, and I semi-disagree with that 1 kilometre thing, Bruce, but logic just says further is better. But the reason I'll disagree with it is largely because I don't think there was a drone there at all. So no, 1 kilometre, as we said last time, it's just all it takes is a telephone to defeat an airport at the moment. So,
if you look at it from a safety perspective, you get an airliner coming in on a final 1 kilometre out from the threshold, he's going to be pretty damn low, probably below the 400 feet in some cases. So it makes sense. Every other government in the world has had more than 1 kilometre. I think at one stage Canada had like about 4,000 miles or something because they're a bit stupid. But I mean, other countries have got like 5 to 9 kilometres usually.
Yeah, we've got 10. It's 10 here. But then if you put 10 radius, not the other one, if you put 10 on a map around Cape Town or Johannesburg, and it's every helipad and every light aircraft strip, there is nowhere to fly.
But again, helipads don't need the same, and Canada's quite good. They've set a lower threshold for helipads as for airports because helicopters don't have to come in on a slow glide approach. Sure, they don't come straight down because they want to avoid ring vortex and things like that and settling under power, but they can come in at a 30-degree angle quite safely, which means that they only need a kilometre or so around a helipad.
Yeah, well then your manufacturer has to put these things on your flight app that you're using to fly, and they have to be accurate and they have to be enforced. It's no good.
There's no problem because everything is on the logs. So you just ask for the logs, Bruce. I want to see your logs, Bruce, because I something tells me that you're not behaving like you should. So
in the name of security, all my logs have been flushed.
No. Bruce.
So
I think you're being a candidate for the naughty boys list on Santa Claus.
So there are no floating logs anywhere around there. No floaters. Fair enough. Oh dear me, dear me. No, what's the time? Look at the time. It's 3 minutes.
Demonetized.
Demonetized again. Still always. Yeah, I don't know what the net result of all these crazy new regs around the world are going to be. I don't think we're going to see the end of these airport scares for a long time yet. I think we're going to see a few more. I think we're going to see some copycats in different countries as well.
But in the end, I like the press release that DJI made about the sightings of. It was balanced, based on facts. If Bruce would write instead of ranting on video, I think that could have been written by Bruce.
So then no politician or regulator will understand what DJI is talking about.
I don't know. It was on a clear language, so I believe it's not the regulators, Bruce. It's not the regulator. At least in our case here, it's not the regulators. It's the government. And that has to be on non-specialized person language. And I think they managed to do that.
Yes. All right, let's try and... I didn't put it in our thing. Let's put it on the notes here. Did we all see that Eufy... I'm not going to be able to say it correctly. That Eufy Draco 4 times 4. I'm going to put it in our comments here that we did, where all they did was take a racing drone and added. I'll put it in that thing here. I've already put it in the big comments. They just added more longer arms and more motors. What do we reckon of that? Do you think that thing's going to break apart? It's the new racing thing for
the one with I don't know how many motors in the arms.
Yes, that's it. That one.
Okay. I know that ArduPilot supports some crazy configurations. I'm not so sure that we will ever support that unless the guy just runs the wires in parallel between all the motors. And I would just suggest to them, perhaps it would be easier just to get a 21-inch propeller. You might save some effort on that.
Yes. Well, I just thought, well, it was a clever way of doing it in some ways, but also in engineering terms. I mean, and they plug in, those extra arms just plug in. So there must be there's a heck of a lot of confidence on that joint. But it's for racing and it's for a large scale. It's to compete with what's X-Class is the other one, isn't it? And it's DR1. I think I better read and see.
I've broken enough propellers already. I don't need that.
DR1, that's right. It's their response to the X-Class. So it is taking it to that bigger, more, shall we say, crash-friendly size of racing drone, i.e. one that the audience can see crashing when it crashes.
I still don't see a future in it. If the Rocket Racing League didn't work, I don't see drone racing working as a spectator sport.
Remind me, I forgot what the Rocket Racing League was again. Was that the...
No, remember the Rocket Racing League? They were going to have man-carrying vehicles powered by rockets flying through hoops and around a course, and it was going to be all televised. There was a whole lot of hype behind it. I think Rutan might have been involved. You know, Rutan might have been involved at one stage. It was going to be a big thing. Look it up on the Google web.
Yes, I wanted to say Longies or something. Was it that one? And that just never happened.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money promoting it and concepting and doing all the 3D rendering. So I'm surprised it didn't work. They had so much 3D rendering, it must have worked.
Well,
Come
yes,
on, Bruce.
really,
They
absolutely.
need your 3D sketchboard.
Yeah, we need some more Bruce Chain. Although I see Bruce Chain is very much on its downers at the moment. It's not very popular. So we're going to have to consider.
But Russia is getting into Bruce Chain to get around sanctions. Brilliant. I'll be worth a fortune soon.
Absolutely. All right, look, there's the hour. Let's ask the guys, has anyone else seen anything else that has caught their eye this week? I've seen Nicholas' new mug. I've seen that. I see it on the desk in front of us. It's fantastic product placement for the Arcs Angel RC channel.
That was not on purpose.
Oh, no, of course it wasn't. No.
Yeah. No, because I moved from my laptop to my phone because for some reason my Wi-Fi was absolutely crap, and placing my phone right here on my laptop sort of revealed that.
Oh,
it wasn't on purpose though.
Oh, there we are. Well, it's a wonderful.
But
wonderful.
Either way, I do love this thing, as I've already mentioned a few times. Very, very special gift.
And
you go, read the cup. Can you read it, Gary? Can you see it, mate?
Well, when you talk, I can't see the bottom. You can see rubbish. It's a rubbish, total rubbish.
Total rubbish.
Yeah, beautiful. We all need those. That's exactly what we all need.
What in the world?
Yeah. That's quality, that's quality. Well, yeah, I can't really compete. I mean does Gromit count? It doesn't really.
That's a remarkable facsimile, Gary.
It is. I wondered where I put that. There we are. Oh, that's excellent. That's going to be another airway receiver for my electronic conspicuity experiment. The next one. I knew I had another one. Oh dear. Anyway, right with that. Oh, Alan, remind us, what's the name of your channel, sir?
Oh, it's just Alan Yu.
Alan Yu.
Yeah.
You fly every day. You have great videos. Of course, Nicola is Archangel RC, and Bruce, we don't need to tell anybody who Bruce is, otherwise the
No,
authorities.
don't tell anybody who I am. No, don't do that. But hey, Alan, that video of the mist, the fog rolling in over the city, that was brilliant. I love that. It's one of your best aerial videos.
Thank you. And hopefully you don't take that away from average people flying drones. I mean, that's all we do, just capture like scenery and stuff like that. And hopefully everyone else enjoys it. But yeah, hopefully you don't commercialize every single thing and take the fun out of it.
Don't you deal with your innocence, Mr. You.
Which they will probably do.
It's always they, isn't it? And Louis, what's on your drawing board, building board? They have no helicopter in the background.
No, just fighting over good old radio programming.
A Graupner radio. They're made in Korea.
Yeah, but so still going back to the before FR Sky radios, and the OpenTX ease of use for a programmer, and going through setting up an RC vehicle like it used to be done, right? Remember that, Bruce?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, old school, mate. I must get my single channel plane going again.
Well, yeah, 200 grams. So we're going to have an informal competition, are we? The longest. What's the criteria for winning this informal sub 250 competition then? Longest flight time, longest distance, fastest.
Yes, all those.
Yeah, all of those. All right, cool. All right, I'll have to have an informal competition, and on that, and it's open to you, dear viewer, as well. So please try and join us on the doing more than we're supposed to be able to 250 gram machine to make sure we get even those banned all around the world. for everyone else.
Here's a go, Gary. Look, you're missing a promotional opportunity here. Film your 250 gram creation, put the video on YouTube, and include a link to SUAS News, and you could be in the draw to win absolutely nothing except fame and notoriety.
Absolutely. Of course. Yes, we could do that. What is this SUAS News thing of which you speak? Anyway, all right, guys, we're talking nonsense, and someone's going to buy a boatload, sail it with hot chicks and bikinis, and take aerial videos in the Caribbean. Well, he's won already. Rybat has already won, just because he's going sailing with hot chicks and bikinis. Well, that's that competition closed. That didn't take long. All right, guys, thank you very, very much indeed. Thank you for joining us, Alan, and bringing us to the work in Canada. We look forward to seeing you again. We must have you back soon for Canada.
Pleasure.
And of course, Bruce, and you, dear viewer, and we'll see you same time, same place, 2100 GMT every Tuesday for more next to nothing and mostly nonsense. Cheers for now. Have a lovely, safe week. Bye bye. It's the lawn.
Right.
Cheers.